When you label something, you A, make it better, B, make it more understandable, or C, kill it. Now, this is a quote. Where's the quote from? Which one of these is true? And how do we apply this to daily life? Now, the answer is C. When we label something, we kill it. And I'll talk about who said that a little bit later in the talk. Now, the other day I talked a little bit about filters. So filters are just a cognitive shortcut that we use as humans to filter out the things we don't care about and pay attention to the things that we do care about. This can lead to obvious problems, and you can watch the prior video if you haven't seen it to get into that. Today, the cognitive shortcut we're going to talk about is labels. I think both filters and labels are really pervasive. You see them a lot. In real general terms, I think filters might be a little less problematic. Labels, I think, can be very problematic. And basically, a label is just something we apply to a person or a situation so that we don't have to pay any more attention to it, so we don't have to think about it. We've decided what it is or what they are, and we're done. So just providing a couple of examples that are really simple and very benign. If I decide that someone is lazy and I pay no further attention to them, it's possible that I just misjudge them at some point, and maybe they're not lazy. But if I put that label on them, it can cause problems. If I decide that a certain type of food is spicy, and I've put that label on it, and I don't think about it, and then I go to a different restaurant in a different city from where I had that first experience, and I've just decided that whatever this is spicy, and I order it off the menu without qualifying it, without asking questions, just accepting my label, I might end up being disappointed. It might end up being a lot spicier than I will enjoy, or it might not have enough spice. Now, we apply cognitive shortcuts to things just to simplify life, because in the West, we've got way too much information. We got phones going off all the time and everything. So we have to filter things. We have to simplify things a bit. So in and of itself, labeling, I guess the best way to look at it is labeling things has some utility. The problem is I think labels can get out of control. And I think the two areas where it's most problematic, although I'm willing to discuss this, are when we label a person and we stop paying attention to them, or when we accept someone else's label about somebody and we don't process things for ourselves. So let's say you're in some kind of a business setting or a social setting, a church setting, whatever, and we've got you and two other people, and maybe you don't know it, but those two other people don't get along. And you might get along with both of them. But if one person gives you their, let's say person A gives you their label for person B, and you just accept it, it can affect the way you interact with them. It can affect the way you treat them. It can cause you to potentially miss opportunities if that label is incorrect. It could be based off of any kind of jealousy or rivalry or whatever. It's also possible the label is correct, but if we just accept someone else's label for somebody and we don't process it on our own, we're really limiting our own experience. And the point behind if you label something, you kill it, is that when we label things, we stop paying attention to them. We've decided what they are, and we're not paying attention to them anymore. This can lead to us having poor information. It can also lead to poorer experiences, because if we've already decided something's a certain way and there's more information we could get about it, we might miss out on something important or something that we'll really enjoy, or something that can harm us. So applying this to daily life is very simple. In the first place, be really cautious about labeling people and situations. You're going to label things sometimes. Like, I'll label a restaurant that I don't like the restaurant, or I don't like the food. We're not going to cut this out of life completely. We just want to be cautious about when we allow ourselves to label things, because it can be really limiting. And if you know anyone in your own life who's really closed-minded, if you think about the way they interact with people and the way they do things, they probably have a lot of labels that they've affixed to a lot of different situations and people that they are just uncompromising on. And I think especially when we're dealing with people, people are very fluid, and everybody has good days and bad days. So affixing labels to people, we've got to be really careful about that. Now, sometimes that will be appropriate. There will be situations where behavior is so strong, or you might dislike someone's behavior so much that if they have positive qualities, it doesn't matter. I think I'll avoid giving any examples for that, but you can probably, I'm sure you can think of something that you relate to. So there are times when we might need to affix a label to something and just be done with it. But most of the time when we're interacting with people, just remember people are fluid. We have good days, we have bad days. Part of this is even, if you decide someone's a certain way and you're not paying attention to them, it can be really easy to miss when they're having a difficult time in life because we're just not paying attention to them. We have them categorized somewhere, and then they might be going through something. I've seen this happen, and because people weren't really processing their current behavior, they didn't realize something was wrong. Okay, so we've talked about filters. We've talked a little bit about labels. We could talk about this a lot longer, but I try to keep these videos really short. The main point is just be real cautious about affixing labels, especially to people. And when you do affix a label to somebody, just be willing to reevaluate it because people are fluid. Good people are fluid, bad people are fluid. There are bad people that know they're supposed to make a good first impression, and some of them are really good at it. And if we just accept that first impression and we label them as, charming or sweet or professional or whatever, and we don't continue to evaluate them, we can end up there's a lot of ways that can go wrong. As far as the quote that I opened with, if you label something, you kill it, that was Bruce Lee. I think the first place I read that was a book called Striking Thoughts. I don't know if that's even still in publication. But Bruce was a very prolific writer, and a lot of what he wrote was philosophical. So, all right, I've used all my words for today. Go read a book.